And can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Robert Lehmann. I live here in Carpinteria with my wife. We've been living here for 5 years and love being here.
Now, Robert, as part of Everyone Has a Story, can you tell me a memorable story from your past?
When you first mentioned this, Larry, the first thing that came to my mind was an incident that happened to me back when I was about 22 or 23 years old. It was on the New Jersey shore. I spent a good part of the afternoon in a pub and went to visit a friend of mine who was a lifeguard in Manasquan. I got there and he was not there. And I wanted to go for a swim. It was a little later in the afternoon, and the lifeguards basically were all off duty, but there was still one who was around. And I recall him mentioning to me that it's really not safe to go in the water, and I, having had a few beers under my belt, decided, well, I'm not taking advice from him. I don't know him. He's not my friend. So I decided to go in the water.
He was actually your friend, right?
He was indeed ultimately my friend, yes. So I decided to go in the water, and I thought, well, I can handle this. It's not a big deal. But there was, as I got in deeper, I discovered there was quite a severe riptide, or undertow, I suppose you would say. There was quite an undertow, and so I got caught. And I vividly remember flailing around, and at one point I looked up and I could see the sun shining through the water, and decided that obviously was my best bet, was to aim for the sun and swim as hard as I could toward the sun. And I managed to get my head above water, and I managed to be able to ride a couple of waves into the shore, and crawled up on the shore, basically because I was pretty exhausted. I had swallowed a little bit of water, as I recall. I crawled up on the shore and left the beach and walked up past where the lifeguard who was still hanging around happened to be, and did not express any appreciation to him or to the people who were there for their having remained, because it dawned on me later, they would probably have done something to come in and get me if I was unable to get out, and if they had recognized that I was really in peril. And it occurred to me that was a real profound lesson for me, that I should not take those kinds of chances when I've had too much to drink, that the ocean can be at once a magnificent and beautiful and powerful experience, and at the same time, if you lose your mind in that situation, you can lose your life at the same time. So it was, and I still recall very vividly having looked up and seen the sun.
Wow, that's something. Did it pull you under, or did you just start floating down?
It pulled me under. It felt like it pulled me under. And
do you think they didn't realize that you were drowning?
I think they didn't come down to the beach, as far as I could tell. They were still up kind of on a boardwalk area. As far as I know, they didn't make any effort to come down to get me. I guess they saw that I was still able to negotiate the situation somehow. I was still able to, when I saw that sun, I was able to get my head above water, and to be able to get at on the top of the water, top of the waves.
Is it possible that they hadn't even noticed that you went underwater, and if you had stayed underwater, they never would have noticed?
No, I think I think the lifeguard particularly had an eye on me. I think he would have noticed if something was really wrong and he had to do something. But I really put them in peril too, because it was stupid. Really, really one of the dumbest things I ever did. But it was one of the most obviously. This is like almost 50 years or so ago that this happened. It's still very vivid in my mind. Very profound.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good story, Robert. Apart from that story, can you just tell me what lessons in general have you learned in life?
Well, I think I always I always remember being kind of easygoing and patient. And I think probably the most significant lessons I learned when I was working, Annie and I, we had two children, and at one point they were both in daycare, and I was continuing to work, and then our daycare lady left, and so we looked around for another daycare situation. We couldn't find anybody because she had raised the bar really high. So I decided to leave my job. Well, you know, obviously Annie and I decided together that I would leave my work because she had a much better situation than I did. I would leave my work and stay home and take care of the children. And they were probably the most powerful teachers that I've ever had in my life. I recognized really early that if I didn't pay attention to their agenda, didn't pay attention to what they were doing, and just went by my own version of how things ought to be, that I could wind up being a child abuser. And I thought about how single parents, the difficulties that they must encounter raising 1 and 2 and 3 children, how the possibility for the potential for abusing your children is really there, because if you really don't what's the word I'm looking for? If you're not willing to be flexible about what their agendas are and to be able to work intelligently with them, then you keep getting more and more angry about them being who they are and you being who you are and being fixed in that perspective. Then the potential for being abusive is quite strong. So I was confronted with that several times, because children can really piss you off.
Yeah, they can.
Children, they can really piss you off, particularly when they were 2 years apart in age, and sometimes it could just really be almost unbearable. So I was very thankful I had a meditation practice that I could relate to and that I could utilize in my relationship with my children. So I could allow some space for them to be who they were.
And perhaps the lesson you learn for others is that patience is really important as a parent, and you need to expect that you'll need to practice patience with kids. Is that right?
With children and with adults. It's with myself, with others, yeah, altogether. It's just not restricted to children.
Well, very good. Any last thoughts for with Everyone Has a Story? Or how would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as kind. I'd like to be remembered as someone who. I would like to be remembered that people would smile when they saw me, and so that there was some kind of joy that they experienced by having some kind of connection with me.
I think that's going to come true, Robert. Well, nice talking with you.
Thank you very much, Larry. Appreciate the opportunity.